we're live. Who's to say? See, this doesn't say we're live. Well, it sort of does. Okay, well, let's assume we are. Hey, everybody, and welcome. And it's Tuesday night, and it's an early episode here as we're covering our 3.5-year journey of Star Trek DS9. And I'm Dave Mader, coming to you here on Live Long and Podcast, joined with my brother Jeff Mader, and also with tonight Ashley and Kevin Millard.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. And Jeff and Jaemeel Robinson as well. You know, he says hello. He's giving the sign for hello, and both of his eyes are open. He has no sores in his eye, so it's a good evening here, and we're covering The Siege, everybody. We're talking about the third episode of season 2, which is this only 3-parter in Star Trek history, I think, that I can recall, or at least the very first one, and it is the ending. And is it maybe the best part of them all? Kevin?
No, it is not. Other than it being over.
I think it is the best of the 3.
Jeff disagrees, yes. Why do you think it's the best of the 3, Jeff?
Because there's very little Bajoran stuff going on, and it's a lot more to do with the crew, and there's a lot more scenes with like Starfleet, and as far as Nog and Jake, and there's a lot more. Like, there's a good speech by Sisko. I don't know, just like there's less Frank Langella and Kai Wynn, which I'm thankful for.
Okay, Jaemeel, do you have a take on this?
Oh my gosh, I just finished this episode. It sucks. Oh my gosh. So stupid. It is so useless. Oh my gosh.
What in particular stands out to you?
All that bluster of 2 episodes to wrap up in that way? No, this is a terrible episode. I'm sorry. Regardless of what people say about the Bajorans, you could have, I can, a barrel of monkeys and throw a typewriter in it and spin that barrel around, and I can get a better script for that. That's terrible. No.
Ashley, were you sad over the death of Lee Nallis?
No. Because they never gave us a reason to care about him.
He was a man of the people.
Speech. He did 1 speech.
Yeah.
2, almost 2, I think. I think 1.5.
That speech was pretty good, though. His 1 speech was pretty good.
We are Bajorans.
Yeah.
Let our guests leave.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of this episode. I'm not a fan of this story arc in general. The episode, the pacing is super weird. So, it's super long the first 2/3 and then seems really rushed at the end. And as far as the Federation's in it a little bit more, but why? What? There was really no purpose other than Jadzia and Kira. There is no purpose to the rest of the crew crawling around in Jeffrey's tubes. For the episode, they didn't do anything for the episode.
They were eating field rations.
I know, but they did nothing to affect the outcome.
They didn't.
Everything would have happened.
They really shouldn't.
If they weren't on the station.
Yeah, they literally could have just left the station, and everything would have turned out the same.
Ashley,
except maybe Lee Nallis wouldn't have died.
Another question. Maybe not. Maybe not.
Lee Nallis's death.
Another question for you. Was this does Sisko and his Starfleet crew violate the Prime Directive in this episode?
Only Dax.
Yeah, because the rest didn't really do anything.
She shoots down a Bajoran military fighter. So, yes, she does.
And then she impersonates a Bajoran, and then it goes into the Capitol for a significant political internal thing that is.
Yes.
I think Dax, but Dax is only there on the behest of Sisko too, and Sisko chooses to stay behind and sort of do this coup. But really, he could have trusted Lee Nallis to run this thing, because really, and Odo perhaps, those two alone.
because Lee Nollis has, number one, already said that he's an accidental hero. He didn't do anything on purpose. He doesn't want to be a hero. And two, already tried to run away. Could he have trusted Lee Nollis? Like, if that was my person that I was trusting to do something, I'd be like, I'm just going to stay here and supervise.
And can he trust Odo? Like,
Okay,
again,
Sisko has to stay, but does O'Brien need to stay?
Yeah, he's the most important person in Federation history.
Love it.
Lower decks.
yeah.
Great answer. Great answer.
Yes, we caught up.
Yeah, I was going to say you're past episode 2, aren't you?
Yes, fully caught up.
Yeah. Okay. So Jeff, you said this was one of maybe the better episodes of this trilogy.
I just liked that. I thought it was a funner episode than the first 2 episodes. The first 2 episodes were boring as sin. And this episode, at least for me, at least it was kind of fun in some ways. I know everyone hates this episode, it seems like, but I actually thought there was a lot of really fun moments with Quark when he's pushing his big case of gold press latinum and like Bashir's like
Don't make fun of his mother. That's the 31st rule of acquisition.
the mom joke, and like Quark when he's like he gets on he's like, are you gonna miss me? He's like, I'm going to miss you, and he's like, you said it, and then he gets onto the lift, and then he does that laugh, and I don't know, just there's moments in this episode that I think are fun, and I enjoyed those moments more than the first 2 episodes combined. That was how I felt.
I agree. I liked all of those moments, but that was it.
Yeah.
As far as the story goes,
the Rom and Quark stuff too. It's like, would I risk your life? It would have to be a deal of the life of my lifetime. Yes, of my lifetime.
My lifetime. Yeah, like all that stuff I thought was really, really good. I guess it was a great Quark episode, wasn't it? Other than that,
Yeah.
It's not even about Quark at all.
I still don't understand Quark leaving, because he's stayed on the station for every other occupation. Why is he leaving now?
Bajorans are crazy.
These Bajorans want to kill aliens.
He just hates the Bajorans.
I guess, yeah.
He's like, I can deal with it if Starfleet's here, or if the Cardassians are here, but if it's just them, I'm the fuck out.
I think it was more that he thought they were
Are there any
dangerous.
future sequences of Kai Wynn? Oh, sorry, of Vedic Wynn and Quark that we can think of?
Probably. There's probably they probably have a scene together down the road.
I'm looking forward to that.
I don't know. I can't think of one.
See?
We'll have to be on a watch out for that.
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay. In the opening scene here, where Sisko, I think maybe it's not the cold open, but I think it's maybe the scene after the credits where Sisko and his crew are talking about they're going to stay, and they've made connections here over the last year, right? And they're all standing around ops, and they all basically decide that they're going to take their uniforms off and have a little bit of an insurrection here, and stay behind and sort of help Lee Nallis and the rest of the Bajorans who are their friends kind of protect what they've built and stop the Cardassians ultimately from taking this, because they're trying to manipulate the situation. Did anyone find it odd that like it was not that many Starfleet crew? Like this space station and this like the people who live here and the work here in terms of the Starfleet crew in particular is pretty small. Like I think it gets bigger later on in the show as they.
Well, it gets bigger obviously during the war, I would assume, but even in the beginning seasons, you don't really see a lot of Starfleet walking the promenade or anywhere like that. So no, it's not surprising that's it.
But what about the Starfleet officer that's engaged to a Bajoran man, or the guy who has a son who did the science fair project with another Bajoran kid? What about those people, Kevin? I won't have you disparage them. We've built a life here over the last year. I'm not going to let you take it away.
I don't know about you, but I'm not going to die on a space station just because I helped some kid with a science project.
It wasn't even a good one. It was a C+ at best.
there was moments like that where they wrote the dialogue and I'm like, what the hell? Like, who wrote this?
Yeah.
So like we can look at each group of like leaving parties. Quark, was he right to leave?
I don't think he really wanted to leave. That was my read on it. I think he dragged that suitcase slowly. I think he was like, "Oh no, I don't want to go." Jeff, he's asking what you're on. Jody wants to know what you're on.
Well, I mean, I just have a different perspective. I get it. If everybody wants to crap on this episode, I get it. I understand it. But maybe somebody has to defend certain parts of it. For me, the first 2 episodes are almost unbearable to watch. So
I thought this was better. I'm with you. It's not great. I don't think that this is a great 3-parter. I don't think this is a great episode per se.
Yeah, right.
But it's compared to the first 2 weeks. Better. I hate the ending. I don't like the death of Lee Nallis. I
agree.
It trivializes all of these events.
Yeah.
That's not even the part of the ending I hate. Why they don't wrap anything up? What the fuck happens to Jaro? Do they finish? It doesn't get resolved. Do they finish doing the investigation? What the fuck happens to him? Nothing.
I think that's that's Ira Stephen Bear going. Sometimes there aren't resolutions. Sometimes there aren't
that happens in Deep Space Nine in these first seasons a few times,
Yeah,
where then all of a sudden the episode is over and you're like, what?
And then they never mention it again.
Right, like remember Blood Oath, which we'll be seeing later on. We only know it because we did it in Star Trek Radio Theater.
Yeah.
But at the end when Dax comes back, she'll be like, "Oh, everyone's kind of weird around me now. There's no resolution to that." And that's kind of like the way they sort of like to end episodes. But this strikes me as odd as well because it's pretty big deal in terms of like the plot and everything else going on. It's hard thing to brush over.
This whole thing had to be a 4-parter. There has to be they decided, nope, we're gonna cut our losses and we're just gonna move on from the storyline because they get to the planet 7 minutes left and they wrap up everything in 7 minutes.
This is what I mean by the pacing. The first part of it is super long and just stuff that doesn't need to be there. And then they rush the ending and you don't get a resolution to it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's rushed. It has to be.
Yes, I agree. I think they were like, you can't do a 3-part episode. Get this over with and let's get on to the week-by-week stuff. I think maybe they originally had planned to kind of have a little bit more of a longer arc with Lee Nallis, and then I think somebody stepped in and said, "Just kill this guy, and make this other guy the bad guy."
Well, I think it's a threat to Kira's character if he's the first officer, isn't it?
Yeah, they had to kill him.
But after Jaro's gone and everything, they can transfer him somewhere else, and Kira can come back.
Yeah.
Imagine the suicide.
Yeah. This would have been a tough 4-parter if it had been a 4-parter. Oh yeah, for sure.
The
trial of Minister Jaro.
If they thought about like this should have been a season-long type of storyline where different parts of what we saw would have been intertwined with other stories as like a B story or maybe
that's
an
what
A
they
story.
Would go on to do. They would go on to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's
but like this does not work at all. Like, let's say, Kira decides I'm going to, go on a vacation. I'm going to Turks and Caicos. So I'm going to only show up in one episode in a 4-week span. So I take care of all my Vidic Burrell sex scenes in like one day. And then
all the sex scenes with Vidic Burrell.
Yes.
Yeah, you can knock those out.
And then, we don't see her for a couple weeks because we got, Major Lee Nallis, whatever, chilling with Cisco, playing baseball and learning about Bo Bukai, right? Like, that's what they do instead over the course of the season.
They should have killed Bareil in this episode, too. We don't need any more Bareil.
Yeah.
Where are we going to get my innuendo?
Yeah, I don't think a tear would have been shed for most of the Bajorans. I mean, if they just been a mass murder.
The entire race.
Project.
Yeah, the Cardassians all loved it.
Jeff, let me ask you this: the whole third act with Kira and Dax, and them having to get that old raider on the planet with the spider dogs, the Palucos.
The Palucos or whatever. Yeah,
whatever they were. Did you enjoy this dynamic between Kira and Dax?
I Okay, my thing with Kira, where my head was going with their whole dynamic was, I thought Bajor was like this paradise planet, right? And I know they were on the moons, and that's where they were going. And it's, I guess the moons are a lot dingier and awful. But
There's many of them too.
Right, and I don't really understand like what Trill looks like as far as
It's like Earth, as far as they don't show it much in the series, but as far as I know, Trill is very Earth-like.
Okay, I got the impression that like Kira was from like she was used to being in like the dirtiest, dingiest places, which I guess she was when she was in the Resistance. But like, yeah, I don't know. It's just where my head was going. Their dynamic, it was good, but not great.
Well, why did they have to get this old ship? I didn't understand that part.
Because they needed to get to Bajor, and there was no method of doing so. They couldn't like have a runabout, like, hey, drop me off a Bajor runabout. No, they had to go in the opposite direction so they can stop off at the moon, drop them there, and then use one of the ships that may or may not be there, and use that to get to Bajor.
No, they knew it was there. They knew the ship was there. Lee Nellis told them the ships were there. They didn't know. They weren't sure if they were going to be able to get that ship off of the moon. And so when they got there, it was a little dicey to whether or not they were going to be able to get that ship going. So that was the whole moment where, and they get into that pod thing. It almost felt like Star Wars, like with the thing.
That whole sequence was Star Wars.
Yeah,
I felt like Dax was way out of character too. Like, when did she become such a whiner? She whined the whole time about having to do things manually and do things.
Right.
She's not like that in any other episode.
Yeah.
She is with Worf later on.
Yeah, she is.
Till Bane came out. That's why.
What do you mean?
That she'd be whiny with Worf, like later on.
Yeah.
When he's like,
okay.
But
maybe in her personal life, but this is her profession. She's not whining about Kira not loving her enough. She's whining about having to shoot something without automatic targeting. Like,
there's another
warrior. That's why.
Yeah. There's another moment where she complains about. Sometimes she complains about technology with not only Kira but with with Worf,
O'Brien too,
and with O'Brien, where she's like, "This isn't working," and she gets all like huffy about it. So. That has happened before.
She can be a pain. It's not completely out of character, but and it's unclear if this is part of her personal life. She says that Kira's not her commanding officer, so she's doing this almost like as a personal endeavor.
We've had that twice.
Sent her.
Yeah, she's doing it as a favor.
No, I know, but I don't know if she thinks that.
She knows she wouldn't have done it, or she would have stayed with
Starfleet.
Yeah.
Morn.
She would stay with Morn.
Whiskers, man.
Speaking of, I love that scene where I think it's like everybody's trying to get on the runabout, and then Lee Nellis comes in and he does his speech. But I just love that Morn is standing in the back and he's just like watching and like holding a leaf or something like that. And he's just
he's holding a ticket. It's his ticket, and he just keeps raising it
Yeah, it's so great. It's just this expression on his face is so funny. But I'm like, he said, I just want to get on the ship. Those are the things I like this episode better than the other two episodes for. It's just like I enjoyed those little subtleties in the background, or like the Quark stuff, or the Bajoran stuff. Yeah, I agree. It's not great, but like going back to the first episode of this trilogy, O'Brien was also doing like a favor for Sisko and Kira when he went and got Lee Nellis out of the prison camp to begin with. So it's like they're
how did he get Lee Nellis out of the prison camp? Can you remind me again?
So Kira had to like shred her stuff and like try and
be a prostitute. Yes, prostitute near Kira's.
Yeah, exactly. So like this episode is not completely well written. Let's all three of them, but I guess maybe I was just happy it was over and there were some jokes on the way.
It's over.
Was O'Brien right to stay on the station and help Sisko?
No, he was not. He should have listened to his wife.
Should have went with them, right?
He should have listened to his wife because, like, I got to do it for him. It's like, come, he has like a whole bunch of other people. Let Lee Nollis like take care of it. There's a whole there's Bajoran engineers. They could have taken care of it. Like, you're.
If O'Brien wasn't there, it wasn't going to make a difference, right?
I think
It wouldn't make a
Keiko
difference.
was like, why do we care about Bajoran problems? These aren't our problems.
If none of them were there, it made no difference.
No difference.
Not just O'Brien.
So, like, there should be a follow-up episode where it's like, I remember you choosing Starfleet over me and your daughter. Like,
No,
what are you going to do about it?
I take issue with that. She married a military man.
True.
And he was staying and doing his job, so she can shut up.
Okay,
And I said
on top of that,
to her in the thing.
I'm gonna change my stance. Why isn't Keiko more on O'Brien's side? Because she already dealt with the Vedic Wynn already, and see what a
Agreed.
raging bitch she is. Like, wouldn't
Agreed.
she not want Bajor to fall under the tyranny of people like her?
And she knows who she marries. He has a decorated history in Starfleet, so
And dealt
he
with
doesn't
Cardassians
just
before.
run
So
away.
I also-
Exactly. He does his
I also
business
think
and gets
Keiko-
that shit done.
I also think Keiko really only cared about her school.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
Forget
She
your-
doesn't care what the politics
Forget your
are.
career. My school is important.
I thought the most interesting thing about the O'Briens was when Chief O'Brien called the Cardassians the Cardis. He's like, you know what, the Cardis that have the Bajoran wormhole, do you? I was like, the Cardis?
That's a racial slang.
Yeah.
He says it a lot as it goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not very progressive for a 24th century man.
Well, 'cause
They're
he-
like,
he
let's
thought-
lead into this. Let's lead into this. She
Jody's-
can shut up. Look, Ashley, I changed my stance. You proved me immediately.
Jody's on
Right?
the Keiko could shut up train here, so it's
Keiko's wrong. You're absolutely right. She should be supportive.
she should be helping to defend their home. It's their
Yeah.
home.
Yes, in general, I'm not down with Keiko. I don't generally have an issue with Keiko, but I did in this episode. You marry a military man, you can't be surprised if he's going to choose to defend his home
Right.
over running away with his family.
I think Keiko felt like the whole audience did, though. I mean,
Let's get away from this.
let's get away from this whole thing.
Yeah, this is gonna
He was
play
like,
out.
are we still doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that respect, I feel for Keiko because she's like, it's been 3 episodes. Can we go back to the school or something?
Jody's not signing off on Keiko. He says he says she's the
Keiko.
worst. And
Oh no, she's not the worst. She's got some great moments on Deep Space Nine that are to come. She's a fantastic actress too. So it's hard
Yes.
to
And she knows her Bajoran sweets from the promenade. What are they
Yeah.
again?
yeah, Jumja
Jump
stick.
just stick.
Jum Justics. Yes.
stick.
She knows
That's
a
more-
Jumja stick when she sees one.
Yeah.
So,
She just wants to make sure her husband isn't sharing Jumja sticks with the wrong person.
exactly.
Correct.
That's what
Correct.
you have to what. That's what being married's about, I guess.
That's right.
So
I guess.
I guess. Jane pops her head in. It's like, what?
What?
You want a Jumja stick?
You want a Jumja stick, Mister?
I really hope she does and says, who are you sharing Jumja sticks with, Dave?
Oh, Lordy.
Okay, in terms of like the plot of the episode, I think we've covered a lot of it.
Okay.
But what is left is sort of the ending. Okay, the general. Let's talk about the general a little bit, and these circle guys, and this whole fight for the station, which is basically the last act of the station, where we say that these Starfleet officers that being there they weren't necessary, really.
They weren't.
My favorite part of that stuff was when the group of them are like, they're in the holosuite, and then they go in, and then the Starfleet officers disappear, and they're surprised. They're in a holosuite, and they're surprised that they were holograms.
Yes.
They're resistance fighters.
Like, they're
Okay.
not very smart. It's just
They're
what I'm gonna
resistance
say.
fighters.
Yeah, they're supposed to be more clever than this.
Yeah.
They outsmarted
Yeah.
the Cardassians after 50 years of occupation.
Yeah,
Right.
but they can't figure out a holosuite.
Okay, what? All right, you know how like Dax is, you know how Dax is a Bajoran in this episode, or like she's pretending to be.
Yeah.
Wasn't it in the
Yeah.
previous 2 episodes that
Yes.
like Kira had a vision, and then like Dax was a Bajoran, and we were like, "Why is Dax a Bajoran?" And we are all confused. And then like this happened in this episode, and was that supposed to be like some sort of proof that like the Bajoran prophets are like good, or like figuring?
No, they can see the future. I think, which we already knew.
Right, which we already knew, and it's just like I don't know, like. And did Kira get naked with the Vedic?
Not yet.
Well?
It doesn't all have to
Not
happen
yet.
in this episode. It doesn't all have to be fulfilled at once, Jeff.
That's
Not
true.
yet.
True. Not yet.
It's going to be
Yeah.
a slow
You
burn.
will.
at
It's
that.
coming.
Yeah, don't worry, we will get naked Bashir or sorry, Barial and Kira. It's coming. We can't be avoided.
We could try.
Okay, here's what I'm trying to wrap my head around, because the main, like the villain sort of this episode in particular, not aside from Vedic Wynn and Minister Jaro, is this Colonel guy. He's like the circle extremist. They say, you know, he's under the general who we met in the first episode. He was like the moderate, honorable sort of kind of curmudgeon-y general guy that Cisco had been talking to, and now they've joined together. I guess like they've joined with these circle or anti-alien people, perhaps. I don't. The thing that confuses me is like after the war and the occupation ended, the Cardassians left, and they created the provisional government, and they decided, okay, you're a general and you're a colonel, I guess, and you're and in Kira's case, you're a major. Like this guy that they made a colonel, poor choice in terms of. I don't know if they picked the ranks out of a hat. Is there some kind of a spin wheel?
He understood what Cisco was doing, and he was like, "Don't play into their hands." And Dummy was like, "I'm gonna go search for them." And then he's like, "Good luck. Go ahead, you dummy." Right? And he's like, "Hey, we've taken the spaceship," and he's like, "Not so fast," right? And he was right.
Everything he says is wrong.
The other dude is wrong.
He's like the most villainous Bajoran in one person in this whole episode. Even like Jaro and
But
Wynn,
also
they have
the dumbest.
the dumbest too. He's the dumbest. He's the worst. Like Jaro and Wynn, they have like almost redeeming qualities. This guy was like the guy who just can never change. He's just blinded by hate. Kevin
McAllister could have beaten him. Okay.
Yeah. Right. He's
He
ultimately
literally got Home Alone.
I would have liked to have seen that guy get hit in the face by a paint can.
Yeah.
Heartbreak.
Odo just turns into a paint can and throws himself at him.
He almost does in this episode.
Yeah.
He turns into a wire,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and not even a thin one, an easily visible wire.
Yeah.
like a
Someone-
A wall and a wire. Once again, he was standing right there when a dude shot another dude. Just right there. He was right there. And Bashir is there and is like, well, he's dead.
He's
There's
dead.
nothing I can do. Like,
You're gonna check the tricorder?
security and the doctor were just like, oops.
All our medical supplies are on the ground.
Again.
Sorry.
Someone should play like the Home Alone theme over like when Odo's in the wall, and it's like, it's like like it's just like do some voiceovers with Kevin McAllister. It'd be great.
Stupid man.
Yeah.
It just puts to Kevin McAllister. Yes, yes.
Yes.
Oh my god. And then it just jump cuts to Saw. I want to play a game.
Oh.
Yeah, but this whole did anyone, I thought he's my most hated character in all three of these episodes because he's so one-dimensional.
This actor has shown up in other stuff. I know that for a fact.
I don't think he's a terrible actor as much as like just the way they wrote him was like so like ugh. And then he's like ultimately the guy who kills Lean Alice. Because I think because he's trying to kill Cisco. Because he's so mad that the circle is broke. Because Cisco gets it, he goes, the circle is broken, right? He says it right to him at the end, right?
How dare you? How dare you?
Yeah.
Terrible line.
There's a lot of terrible dialogue in this episode
Yeah.
for sure.
I didn't make that up. That happens. Like,
I know,
The
but like,
Circle
how
is
dare
a
you?
Terrible name for like a terrorist group. The Circle. It's terrible.
So the guy that you're talking about, Jaemeel, his name is Steven Weber. He played John Torrance in like the remake of Stephen King's The Shining. You know, when they like Stephen King wanted it made more the way the book is. So he played like the Jack Nicholson role. He was also on Wings. He was one of the main
Yes,
guys
that's
on
That's
the
where I
Wings.
know him from.
Yes, I knew it.
Yes, he
I
was the
knew it.
brother.
I
Yes.
knew I hated him from somewhere else.
I never
Hey.
watched Wings.
He's been in a lot of things, but he does
I
lots
love
of
how
voice
Dave
work.
said that with such
Such
shittiness.
stank on
Yeah.
it.
I never watched
Wing.
Wing.
I never watched
Never watched
Wings.
Wings.
It wasn't worth my time.
No one talks about Wings, okay? No one.
There's a reason. There's a reason. There's no Wings revival movement yet. So
Northern Exposure gets referenced more than Wings.
yeah, I like Northern Exposure.
Yeah,
I
see,
love
I knew you
Northern
would.
Exposure.
I knew you would. See, that's why it gets referenced more. Not Wings.
I'd rather watch Coach than Wings.
Oh, Coach is awesome.
Yeah.
Nelson.
Let's talk about Coach.
yeah. This is no longer a D Space Nine podcast.
It's a Coach podcast.
That explains why this episode has clunky dialogue. Michael Piller wrote it.
Is that what happened?
That's what happened.
Is that what?
Michael Piller. So for whatever reason, he was great at some quite a few TNG episodes, but whenever he got his hands on a Deep Space Nine episode, he I don't know, he just kind of just ruined it.
He's one of the co-creators of Deep Space Nine.
I know.
The writers' room fixed it. That's why.
The
In
writers-
TNG, the writers' room fixed it. They did some rewrites,
And he got
and
credit?
he got main title credits. That's why. Right?
So maybe
And-
this was not as bad. This was worse, Jeff, and he made it better.
No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Every time we come on here and we go, that was a bad episode of Deep Space Nine, and then I look and see who wrote it. It's always Michael Piller, and especially in the first two seasons. And I think he wasn't one of the main writers in the later seasons when the show got really good. So I think he was very involved in the first two seasons, and that's why the first two seasons are what they are. And then I think Ira Stephen Bear kind of took over, and his writing team took over. But yeah, no, he's a little not a fan of his dialogue.
The circle is broken.
The circle is broken. Did anyone else love that?
No.
Okay.
No, it's awkward. Do you know what else is awkward? Bashir trying to act tough with his phaser and his really weird, like how he was sitting super weird.
What
His
was that?
leg
Yeah,
was
where they
all
ambushed
bent
those Bajorans.
I call that the Kevin Costner effect. Kevin
Yeah.
Costner makes a gun look less dangerous, just the way Bashir makes a phaser look less dangerous.
Yeah, it was.
Correct.
But not
trying to
Mir.
get tough and it was awkward.
Mir Bashir doesn't do that. So it's Mir Bashir he holds a gun just fine as Mir Bashir. But when he for whatever reason, for whatever reason, when he's Julian, he's just like, I have to be
Always awkward.
Yeah,
It was
awkward
weird.
and lame.
It was weird.
Very odd indeed. And then the very ending, after Lee Nalis has died, and Kira makes it back because Kira's gone to the minister's thing, and she changed the course of where things were going in their politics, but she's not too happy about Lee Nalis's death. She says she doesn't feel like celebrating, and then O'Brien's like, I don't know what the big deal is. Like he was just some dude. Like he didn't impress me too much.
He was pretty mediocre, I thought.
A pretty
I am
crappy
fully
speech.
on O'Brien's side.
Yeah, the whole audience is like,
O'Brien.
does anyone else care? And Cisco's like, you listen here. He was a war hero. He was like the greatest person that ever lived. And anybody else asks me about him, that's what I'll say. But Brian's like, wow, sure, whatever.
But he wasn't. He admitted he wasn't to Cisco in the first episode. He's like, I accidentally killed the goal, and everybody praised me for being this amazing war hero when he wasn't. And then Cisco's like, forget all that. You're a symbol. deal with it. And and he's like, okay,
And then
all right,
he
fine.
tried to run away.
And then he tried to run away.
Is this like just another fundamental Picard Cisco difference? Because I think of like the first duty in Next Generation where Picard's giving that speech of like Starfleet's officer, his duty is to the truth, whether that's personal truth or emotional truth or fundamental truth. It's the guiding principle on which we're based. And Cisco just flies that in the face of that. It says,
Like,
no,
nah, I'm gonna lie.
Speaking of Picard speeches, I think that's what was missing when Kira, because you would normally have in Next Gen, when Kira goes to the ministers and shows them the proof, there would normally be some kind of awesome Picard speech right there.
Right.
She doesn't do
later.
It's garbage.
she gets them later more. Yeah. She tends to give them more. At this point, she's not as much.
It's like, here's the proof. Here's the proof.
Yeah.
Look at this pad. Yeah. It's a gold thumbprint. Ah, gold.
Yeah.
Thumbprint.
And then he just stands up, and then that's it. We hear nothing else.
He's like, I support this investigation.
No.
Peace. And he disappears.
He walked out on the show forever, and that's that. He was going to take over all of Bayshore, and it's like, nope. Kira made it. Her and Dax dressed up as medics, and that was that.
Like, fuck, foiled by a thumbprint.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? I didn't want to be credited on this, bitch. I literally only did this for my kids. I can't believe I spent 3 episodes doing this. Okay.
They gave me a boatload of free toys. Peace. Yeah. I'm gone.
So, just in terms of this ending, is Cisco right to sort of, say what he does, or is O'Brien more right?
O'Brien,
yeah, I agree. Cisco, his whole motivation throughout all 3 of these episodes is flawed. It's all about what Cisco needs for himself. And as far as being the emissary, not being able to fill that void as that symbol for Bajor, so he needs Leon Alice to do it. And he wants to bridge like that whole divide, and then the Circle comes in and screws everything up, so they have to have like this kind of like mini civil war with the Circle. And just everything with Cisco, I think, is not great. I'm glad they ended it here, and that was the end of the Circle stuff, and good.
If somebody under Cisco's command did what Cisco does in these 3 episodes, would Cisco be happy with them?
No, but he wouldn't punish them. He wouldn't punish them that harshly because Worf Worf kills his brother. Like when he first gets there, and Cisco's like, he just yells at him a little bit. Yeah. And then Garrick tries to commit genocide. He gets 6 months in a holding cell for genocide. Attempted genocide.
It was a genocide with a cause, Kevin. It was to save millions of lives.
This goes pretty lenient on the punishment.
Yeah, Dax goes off on a personal vendetta, and things are fine. A little awkward.
Yeah, he doesn't even yell at her. He just gives her a look.
Yeah.
Going back to the Picard Cisco stuff, would Picard be okay with any of these things that we've mentioned ever?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And even that Admiral Chakotay that we met in the last episode would not be too happy with Cisco, I'd imagine. Correct. In terms of like, oh no, it's gonna take us days to take out this Starfleet equipment, so we have to stay behind and we're civilian and like ambush a foreign military who are taking back their station, and like just like it doesn't matter that it does matter in the morality of right and wrong, but it doesn't matter in terms of like what his duty is or what is the prime directive or the ethics of the Federation. So it's a clear demonstration that Cisco is completely willing to fly in the face of all of that if the cause is just, if he thinks the cause is just.
Yeah.
The Bajoran government could like ask like Starfleet for like people like, we want reparations for what has happened. Right? We've had ships destroyed. We've had damage to individual persons who got phasered. We have a legend who got killed in the process of Starfleet's interaction with our taking over a ship, right? Like, you can't easily just sweep this under the rug, right? You shouldn't be able to. Miles O'Brien should be in jail.
Right. He should at least be in the doghouse with his wife, at the very least, and sleeping on the couch.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
You know?
but he is normally with Keiko. I think
he would enjoy sleeping on the couch.
Yeah, I think O'Brien is very
Party
rarely
beds.
in Keiko's good graces. I think it's most of the time there's this bitter tension between the two of them.
Yeah. Well, I just think
Well, there is
too,
there is one episode where she comes back. This is later on. She comes back and all he wants to do is hang out with Bashir the whole time.
Yeah. Bashir's like, you like me more than you like your wife. He's like, no, of course not. I love my wife. He's like, yeah, but we do more together. We go kayaking and we play darts and we drink a lot. You don't seem to do any of those things with Keiko.
yeah, what do you do with Keiko? But
He doesn't do anything. He has dinner with her. That's it.
and argues about things. Miles. Yes. But okay, with Cisco. Yeah, just the fact that he's okay to especially go against Starfleet Command in this particular arc, right? Because of what's going on, and the Cardassians and all these other things. But when later on in this season, like the Maquis are going to come along, and he's very much on the other side of that sort of ethical question in terms of right, wrong, following Federation rule, balancing lives and prime directives and all these other things. So I struggle with that in terms of like, what is the consistency of the Cisco character in terms of how he goes about these things?
It's for me, it's like the Bajoran problem with Cisco, and because he's the emissary, he at the beginning, he just kind of like does things like the ends justify the means in his mind, with like taking the heat off of like himself. I feel like that's how I look at his motivations. Like just some of the stuff that he was saying to Lee Nallis, where he's like, oh, they need a symbol, and it's like, man, you're supposed to be the symbol, aren't you? You're the emissary. Kai Wynn, even the most vicious bitch on Bajor, even like wants to kiss your feet. I mean, you should be able to be that symbol, but he doesn't want to be that symbol for some reason early on. It's not until later.
Nobody's calling him emissary. Nobody.
Except Kai Wynn.
Except for her, yeah.
Vedic win.
I'm sorry, she hasn't
ascended yet,
but she will. So yeah, I don't know. Will she ascend the way the guy did in Lower Decks? Where he
no, not that kind of ascension. More like they'll give her a different hat.
We can only hope.
Painful.
Wait, so
that's the
how is it
ascension
that
for her.
how is it that Kira's willing to go to Cardassia to get Lee Nallis, right, as a symbol, but she's not willing to go to the Gamma Quadrant to get the former Kai, who technically should still be alive?
Right. Because she's done for.
She's dead. She can't leave. The Kai Opaka can't leave that planet.
You're telling me you just like, oh, well, I can't solve the issue right now in this episode, so...
You think you'd go get like a really good Federation science officer, bring him over, he'd figure it out?
If it was somebody else, like if it was Dax trapped on that planet, they would figure that thing out.
They would figure that shit out.
Yeah, by
right
the time
away,
the episode's over. Yeah.
Basically.
Cisco's just like, that bitch keeps grabbing my ear. Leave her there. I hate her.
If she dies again and again.
Yeah. It's like COVID. You know, get it.
And that's our 2020 recap.
All right. So, Jeff, do you want to go to fun facts, or does anyone else have any final thoughts on the
Oh
episode?
my gosh, there's fun facts for this.
There's like 4. Compared to this is the opposite of what we just did for the Gorn episode in
the Gorn episode you went on for like 15 minutes with
there were a lot of fun facts, Dave. A lot of facts for the Gorn episode. There was about 4 for this episode. Because a bunch of them are doubled up from old fun facts from the last 2 episodes.
Can I number them for you? Yeah,
you gotta set me up, and I'll throw it down the middle, and I'll clink it out of the park.
Okay. Number 1.
Rule acquisition number 31 was referenced. Never make fun of a Ferengi's mother.
Number 2.
Dax speaks about her second host, Tobin, who is mentioned as being an excellent engineer. which we didn't talk about, guys, but she's like, not much of a sex life, but he knew the hell out of some sort of polar things or whatever.
No imagination.
No imagination. I was like, why is that the first thing that she brings up? That not much of a sex life.
Because she gets down.
Because she's like, fuck, every time I think of one of those memories, I'm so bored.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
It's the first time they're really referencing it, like, big time in this. Yeah.
I just thought it was weird that, like, that's the first thing she brings up. She's like, he didn't get laid enough, but I mean, he knew how to engineer the hell of a thing or whatever.
I wasn't surprised. This is Dax we're talking about.
Dax. Number 3.
The Paluku spider model was a favorite of Joe Longo. I have no idea who Joe Longo is, but
good old Joe Longo.
That guy, yeah.
Joe. Okay.
Joe Longo, you say?
That's it for that.
You ready? Ready?
I'm ready.
Number 4.
Richard Beimer, who played Lee Nallis, and Frank Langella, who played Minister Jarro, are the only actors besides the regulars to appear in all 3 episodes of the Bajoran trilogy.
Is that what this is called? The Bajoran trilogy?
That's what this is called.
Oh my god.
Okay. I'm just gonna take the fun facts. And before we go to ratings,
I have more.
You said you only had 4. You said you
I
only
was
had 4.
wrong. I thought it was 4. It's actually 6. It's 6.
6. Okay, I'm ready. Number 5.
The station's runabout complement returns to 3, having replaced the Yangtze Kang, which crashed in Star Trek DS9 Battle Lines with the Orinoco.
With the Kaiopaka. That's where that they lost that one. Yeah.
They lost that one, so they out. So one more.
Number 6.
Producer Peter Allen Fields disagreed with the decision to kill Lee Nallis, as he felt that it trivialized the events of Star Trek Deep Space Nine: The Homecoming.
The first part 1 of the trilogy.
So there you go. The producer agreed with you guys.
Yeah, literally nothing had a point. Yeah.
So
the Bajoran trilogy. If you could compare it to any other trilogy, would you say it's
Star Wars new trilogy?
The new 9 what is that? No, what is that? 10, 11, 12?
10. Oh, 7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9. So that is worse than this?
I think it's more entertaining.
The Bajoran trilogy is better?
No, I think the new Star Wars trilogy is more entertaining than the Bajoran trilogy.
I'd rather watch this.
I'd rather watch this. Yeah. And I don't want to watch this again. So it's
me too.
Jaemeel, so okay, maybe another reference, like something like Lord. I'd rather watch this than Lord of the Rings.
Jeez.
Well, that I don't know, but I think Lord of the Rings is better than that.
Me too.
Blasphemy.
Me too, but I really don't like Lord of the Rings.
The Hobbitses?
But I'd rather watch Back to the Future trilogy than
thanks.
This. So I do have ups and downs.
Oh,
as
yeah.
trilogy goes,
like, that's easy.
It's not high. It's not high on the list.
There's moonwalking in the Back to the Future trilogy. Multiple moonwalks. In the past, too.
Right.
Okay, moving on.
I was reading about Joe Longo.
Yep.
Good old Joe Longo.
Very important part of fun facts this week.
From Collingwood, Cleveland, Ohio. I threw you off there. I thought you were saying Ontario.
That Joe Longo. Oh, okay.
He liked the Palukus. It was a favorite of his.
Yeah, they eat them. They eat that spider meat.
Right. Now I know what you're talking about.
And Dax is allergic to insects. I think only because Kira could make a metaphor later for how they won the resistance.
Yeah, that was weird because the Trill are supposed to be sort of having a resistance to poison. So it was interesting to me that they put that in. But let's rate this episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I have to add the row. This was episode 3, and this was called The Siege. And I'll go first. And I'm going to give this a rating of 5. Jeff?
4.5 again. It's no better or worse than the first episode.
Meal.
4. It's the lowest rating I've ever given something, I think.
Yes, it is.
I'm
No,
gonna
I
stick
gave,
with 4.
Vortex a 3.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, actually, you'll give it a 4?
I'm gonna stick with 4.
You're consistent of the Bajorn trilogy. You didn't like anything less or better than the.
No, I
And
feel
Kevin?
like they're all equally awful.
I'm going to give this one a 4 as well.
Oh, okay. So you went down from the last two.
Drop that.
Yeah,
number.
I really did not enjoy this. But it was going to be lower until you came in and at least highlighted the good moments.
There's a few. There's a few fun moments,
Yeah.
but the overall story is awful.
This
Oh,
this has
yeah.
a 7.9 on IMDb,
Bust.
which means it has a better rating than the previous 2 episodes. Okay, so in terms of the 5 of us rating it tonight, that averages at 4.3, barely better than last week at 4.2, and the opener, the homecoming, at 4.7. So not a great start to season 2, guys. These are
No.
3 pretty abysmal episodes in terms of our enjoyment level. But we I think there was good things we could find in it too. So I think
It might have been a good 1 episode.
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe. Like,
Just imagine all that time spent with Vedic Burrell in episode 2.
All that Vedic Barile,
Yeah.
more with him in his shirt off with
Yeah.
Kira, and they're looking at things. Okay, so just looking ahead to next week, we're going to be doing an episode called Invasive Procedures.
Ooh. Is it Dax episode?
It's
It's
sort
the
of
Dax. Yeah,
yeah.
it is, but not very much of a Terry Farrell episode.
Right. It's more like O'Brien and Cisco and that kind of stuff.
And Bashir.
And Bashir.
and the other, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a fog station. Is like it's sort of a. I think is it a Halloween episode? It's near Halloween, and so it's a little bit of a. John Glover will be the guest star in that episode, so I think we're checking out if
I
you're
don't-
familiar with his work. Gremlins 2 own,
Yep.
but yeah, but thankfully that is the end of the Bajoran trilogy. To begin season 2, and I'm glad that it helped them learn that they could do serialized episodes and led them to do some better things down the road. But oh geez, I don't need to watch these.
I'm glad they course corrected after this.
Yes.
They just figured out who shouldn't be writing dialogue anymore.
Yeah, if the trial and error is
Yeah.
just a necessary growing pain of any Star Trek series, then good. These did their job.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's move ahead to that one next week and the rest of season 2, because I think there is going to be some exciting stuff coming up. But as we know, the show will really take a lift off in the seasons to come as well. So thank you. Here on Live Long and Podcast, we're here all the time. We also have to get on to our other channel, Super Mario Brothers Podcasting, because Big Brother is starting shortly, and we need to get to watching that, so we can podcast about that later. But here on Live Long and Podcast, Tuesday nights we do Star Trek DS9. Wednesday nights original series rewatches, and tomorrow we're doing Miri. We're talking about an episode from season 1 where the kids have a disease or something. I don't really know this episode, so it's gonna be fun. And then we'll be
Oh, I like this episode.
yeah, I don't really know that episode. And then we're going to be watching Big Brother again. No, not tomorrow. No Big Brother again tomorrow because it's tonight instead. Sorry, I'm thrown off. I'm used to Big Brother on Wednesdays. Thursdays we'll be back for the eviction episode though on Super Mario Brothers Podcasting as well. Here on Live Long and Podcast, we'll be doing Star Trek Lower Decks, the 6th episode, which is called Much Ado About Boimler. And here Friday night we're going to be doing Star Trek Radio Theater, where we're going to be doing the original series, A City on the Edge of Forever, which is going to have Michael Chan as Captain Kirk. We're going to have Kevin Millard as Commander Spock. Our friend Mott as Dr. McCoy.
What?
We have myself as sister Edith Keeler. I'm going to be a nun. And then we got Jessica Chan playing Scotty and Chief Kyle, Galloway, and the policeman and the crier, and Jeff as the guardian of forever, and the homeless man who in the script is called the rodent, but I thought that was disrespectful, so I left that off. I just said homeless man, and then Lieutenant Hikaru Sulu, along with Ashley as our narrator, and is playing Lieutenant Uhura, and the driver who almost mows down Kirk and Spock before their mission even gets going. So in this time travel centric episode, so check that out Friday night at 9 live here on Live Long and Podcast. We hope you enjoyed that. Please join us again next week for Invasive Procedures. I'm Dave Mater. For Ashley and Kevin, for Jeff and Jaemeel, Live Long and Podcast.